back in the room, just me and Matt again. Tim, as we said, is on the road. He's given a bit of background to what it's like prepping a drill program. And again, stay tuned. Future episodes where we're going to show some real behind-the-scenes stuff on that, which should be quite interesting. You get a fair bit of time sitting in a Tojo, don't you, while various things are happening. So this taking the GoPro won't be too hard.
No, we'll find the time somehow.
Yeah. So, talking of which, maybe you can run us through a little bit about what we're doing, how we're doing it. Mm-hmm. Again, I know from the feedback, people love hearing a little bit more. I see words like RC and diamond tail and various meterages and PQ and NQ and HQ and words like that and phrases like that. Give us a little bit about what we're doing here.
Yeah, so we're going to start with RC pre-colors. RC is a type of percussion drilling, which kind of what it says on the tin. It works by striking an air-powered hammer against the rock, and it just breaks it up into small little chips, which can then, again, just using that air, gets pushed down the hole, and then the chips come up the middle of the rods. The result at the other end is a sieve full, basically, of little tiny rocks, and then the geo can look at it and go, okay, I know what sort of rock that is. I can identify the stratigraphy that we're in, and if there's any mineralization, you'll generally see it in sulfides and whatnot. The challenge you have with RC is, particularly where we are at Elizabeth Creek, there are limits on depth.
Yeah.
We can generally get to between about 300 and 350 metres before you just don't have enough air pressure to keep the water out.
Yeah.
And at that point, that's when you need to switch over to diamond.
Yeah.
And again, for people who haven't spent a lot of time around drill rigs, a diamond rig, the diamond actually refers to industrial, very small industrial diamonds in the bit, and that is hard enough to directly cut through the rock, and it produces a cylinder of rock, which is pumped again back through up the rods using water this time. Mm-hmm. And you get exactly that. You get a cylinder of rock. It's, in the case of HQ, it's about that wide.
Yeah, a bit smaller than a Coke can.
Yeah, about that. You can do it in various widths, but we'll be doing HQ. And that's a much more useful result, I guess, for the drilling, because you can see the rock as it appears in situ, so you can look at its structures. You can look at the texture a lot easier. You don't lose anything. It's exactly as the rock is, so it's not like
It's where you get those nice polish, especially with gold. You get lovely quartz veins with gold, and it's a much more competent piece of rock. It's much more information.
Oh yeah, we can use it for metallurgy. We can use it for geotech. You can do a lot more with it than just pure logging and assaying.
And geotech is obviously the structural properties of the rock or strength and all of those things. So that's how you understand future mining.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the information that gets fed into the mining engineers who tell you whether the roof is going to fall on you if you go underground.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Now, with these, they're often the same rig, aren't they? The UBR rig. In this case, though, we've got 2 rigs coming on site.
Yeah, we've got pure RC rig coming up to do a couple of the preliminary pre-collars, and then a separate UDR will come in later and go down those same holes and drill out the tail, so the bottom 100, 150 metres of diamond. And the reason we're doing that is just so that we could get started a little bit earlier. Yeah. The first rig we wanted wasn't able to start on time, so they've brought someone else in just to make sure that we're not too badly delayed. And so we'll be going ahead more or less on time.
Absolutely. So I'll cut into pictures, and hopefully it'll be an interesting section. Now, talking about specifically with us. When those diamond tails, when that lovely core starts coming out of the rods and going in the core tray, we're talking about a few outcomes of what we're likely to see, weren't we? So for context, you've got 2 sandstones.
Yep.
Whyalla Pandora. Mm-hmm. About 500 million years apart in age.
Give or take, yeah.
Which is called an unconformity, right? You see this phrase quite a bit. That's where you've got 2 rocks effectively together that are at very separate ages.
Yep. Yeah, separated widely in time.
Yeah, separated wise. So one's laid down, and then millions and millions of years later, the others come over the top. Now, Elizabeth Creek, you get the dolomitic black shale. Mm-hmm. And just to explain to us a little bit about how you end up with this black shale between the 2 sandstones, and why we very much hope that, just like at Emmie Bluff, where we know that exists, we hope to see that again at Emmie East.
Sure. So the black shale that we get at Emmie Bluff is it's a subaqueous deposition, which means it's formed in water, and we can look at it. And for most of the area around Emmie Bluff, it's formed in fairly deep water, and we know that just based on the fact that deep water is quiet and low energy, it's called in geology. So you can look, and it's unbroken. You get very small laminae all through it. And the reason why it's important is because the two sandstones are both what we call oxidizing. So they're red, they've got a lot of oxidized hematite in them. The black shale is the opposite of that, it's reducing. And when you have a fluid moving through oxidizing sandstone, gradually picking up metal ions as it goes, that fluid is able to pick up those metal ions because of the redox conditions, that reducing or oxidizing of the fluid. Once it hits the black shale, those conditions change and it can no longer hold on to that copper. It's a precipitation reaction, basically, year 8 chemistry stuff. And then it drops out, forms the sulfides, and that happens over millions and millions of years and eventually builds up to the kinds of deposits that we have at MG14, Lindabout, and Emmie Bluff. And in terms of why we're hoping to see more of that with the drilling that we're specifically doing, there's sort of two different areas. One is out to the east and one's out to the southeast. Down in the southeast, it's pretty direct. There's a drill hole down there called MGD42, which has hit Tapley. It's the only Tapley that we've hit outside of the main body at Emmie Bluff.
Tapley's this black shale.
Tapley is the black shale,
where the copper should live.
And so we've got 2 holes down there looking to extend that Tapley. That first hit wasn't mineralized, but that doesn't mean that the rest of it won't be. And we've got seismic information from our seismic program we did a few years ago down there suggesting there might be a repeat.
And when we say not mineralized, it's not that, I mean, there was no copper in that Tapley, which is as a result of oxidation, i.e. the environment hasn't been there to facilitate the copper to drop out of the fluids.
So something happened to that Tapley, probably a fault or something else, which oxidized it, got rid of that reducing potential before the metal came through.
And again, the sort of where you just get a failed hole or not, not a barren hole, normally you go from Whyalla to Pandora. And you just don't get the Tapley.
Exactly.
So this is super interesting because it's one of only 2 places we're aware of in the area where you've got Tapley without copper.
Well, I mean, the guts of the Emmie Bluff deposit itself, the non-mineralized parts of that, and MGD42. That's right, the only 2 places.
So often where you get unmineralized Tapley, you get mineralized Tapley.
Very, very close.
Very
to the
proximal.
Tapley,
And the mother of discovery is usually, that's interesting. Let's have a look next to it.
And that's exactly where we get to our second area, which is more the Emmie East sort of area. And if you look at the announcement that went out this morning, you can see we've got 2 geophysical maps right next to each other. One shows the seismic, one shows the MT, basically the conductivity of the rock, and both of them have anomalism exactly the same as what you see in the main resource out there to the east. So we're heading out there to test that anomalism, and based on that and a few other factors in some of the historical drilling, we're reasonably confident that we should hit at least the Tapley, and absolutely fingers crossed there'll also be some copper in it.
So these basins with the Tapley in should not occur in isolation?
No, they don't necessarily have to. I mean, almost any way you can produce a basin, whether that's Horst Graben faulting or half Graben or various other ways.
That effectively means the Earth has broken apart and dropped down or twisted and dropped.
Exactly. They tend to happen in groups. And in fact, we actually see that further south, areas around Oakton and Powerline, we see these basins in multiple repeats along the way. So there's precedent for it. There's geophysical evidence for it. What we really need now is a stick of truth to determine whether it's actually there.
And where the fluid's coming from, we were having this conversation the other day, if it's coming from the west to the east, we would be likely to see lower grades, and that's one hypothesis. The second hypothesis, of course, is if the fluid's coming from the east to the west, and we do see the highest grades in the whole deposit on that eastern flank of Emmie Bluff for the most part.
That's true.
This could be better stuff. I mean, that's
for sure. I mean, it's like anything. If it's coming from one direction, that's where the highest concentration of metal is going to be. It's also going to be where the most of it drops out. And as it continues to move, less and less is available to drop out. And we just don't know which direction this fluid's come from and what implication that has for whether the main deposit or the eastern deposit is likely to be the more mineralized.
So this is going to tell us a lot, not least whether or not it's mineralized, also where that fluid's coming from. We should learn a lot geologically.
Yep.
All you lot care about is whether or not there's copper in the core tray, and I'd have to say I fall quite well into that category too, because ultimately that's what we're here for. But we will learn a lot about this, and I will say this: whatever happens, there's still one of the largest copper deposits in Australia right next to it. It's a real deposit. It's an economic deposit. See the most recent scoping study from December, and it's a very good asset. So again, drilling is always exciting. The potential for expansion here is enormous and very exciting. And hopefully that fluid's coming from east to west, and hopefully we hit something. If anyone knows how to sleep under enormous stress, please send your answers to info@codaminerals.com, because it's a bit of a time, isn't it?
Yeah. A little nerve-wracking. We've been looking at this thing in various different ways for quite a few years now, and finally getting to test it is exciting, and yeah.
Yes. So, thank you for your trust in us to get this tested. We've done everything we possibly could to do all the work, from geophysics and understanding it in geology to drill prep. Now we're going to drill it, and in a few weeks' time we'll know.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
We'll know pretty much straight away as well. It's very hard to miss the black shale. It's black, which helps.
You've got a sandstone, which is sort of a ready sandstone, and a very obvious black shale, which we've seen in many core photos. I'll try and find a good one and pop it into this video as well. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You now have at least half a unit in the geology of sedimentary copper and Kufa shale style deposits under your belt. So thank you for that. But hopefully we've been a bit more enlightening. As always, please refer to the table ones in the announcement, especially the most recent ones. Nothing in his material, or it's really just talking about ideas and thoughts and basic geology. Less than basic geology today, I think. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Cheers, everyone. Thanks.